She thought she was finding love. Instead, she found death. One message. One reply. One fatal connection. In the digital age, predators don't need to lurk in dark alleys. They hide behind friendly profile pictures and charming messages. They study your likes, your dislikes, your vulnerabilities. And when they strike, it's already too late. Welcome to Silent Crime Witness. I'm your host, and today we're exposing how a single click on a dating profile led to one woman's brutal murder. If you value these investigations into the minds of killers, please subscribe now. Your support allows us to continue bringing these crucial warnings to light. The internet has become our gateway to the world, connecting us to friends, family, and potential lovers with unprecedented ease. But lurking in the shadows of this digital landscape are predators who use technology not to connect, but to hunt. Imagine this: a woman sits alone in her apartment, the blue glow of her computer screen illuminating her hopeful smile as she browses dating profiles. She doesn't know that the charming messages she's receiving are coming from a man who has already terrorized other women. She doesn't know that accepting his friend request is the first step toward her own murder. She doesn't know that the digital breadcrumbs she's leaving will eventually lead police to her killer, but too late to save her life. This isn't fiction. This is the story of Clare Wood, a 36-year-old single mother who thought she'd found love online, but instead found death at the hands of a man who refused to take no for an answer. What makes a digital predator so dangerous? How do they select their victims? And most importantly, how can you protect yourself from becoming the next target? Tonight, we'll answer these questions as we examine one of the most disturbing cases of online predation in recent history. The rain fell steadily in Salford, Greater Manchester, as Clare Wood made the fateful decision to respond to a message from 40-year-old George Appleton. It was April 2007 and Clare was looking for a fresh start. Recently diagnosed with bipolar disorder and struggling with her self-image after gaining weight, the online world offered Clare a chance to connect with others without the immediate judgment she feared in face-to-face interactions. Clare had not had an easy life. Her parents separated when she was young, but she formed a deep bond with her mother's new husband, Michael. At 15, she asked him to legally adopt her, a request that moved him deeply. "I was reduced to mush," Michael would later recall, his voice breaking with emotion. "I had a lump in my throat. I was tickled to death. We were very close as a family. She wasn't short of pals, she was very popular. She was a bonny kid, and I was very proud of her." In her early 20s, Clare married Justin Wood and gave birth to a daughter. Life seemed promising. But as she entered her 30s, Clare was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. The condition affected her self-image as she gained weight and struggled with her mental health. Clare had gone from a gorgeous figure as a teenager to starting to balloon, Michael remembered. "I have a sneaky feeling." Clare knew for 4 or 5 years that she was bipolar. The strain took its toll on her marriage. In 2004, Clare separated from her husband, leaving the family home and, reluctantly, her daughter in Justin's care. A year later, Clare's mother died of cancer, leaving another void in her life. "It made an awful hole in Clare's life," Michael said, his voice hollow with the memory of his daughter's pain. By early 2005, Clare was determined to start fresh. She moved into a new flat in Salford, received proper medication for her bipolar disorder, and looked toward a brighter future. Like millions of others seeking connection in the digital age, Clare turned to social media and dating websites. Clare used Facebook quite a lot. That was her channel of socializing, a friend would later tell investigators. She got to the point where she wanted to meet somebody, and online dating, as many of us know, is a way of doing that. On her dating profiles, Clare described herself as a talkative, affectionate woman looking for someone relatively sane in my area. She wanted a serious relationship with a respectful man who liked the larger lady. In April 2007, a message appeared in Clare's inbox from a 40-year-old man named George Appleton. A former fairground worker who lived near Clare, Appleton presented himself as outgoing and charming. Friends would later describe him as someone who had certain traits that he'd use to entice women. He was confident, he complimented women, he lured them in that way, made them feel good about themselves. Within weeks, Appleton had won Clare over. They spent time at her house and chatted for hours online, declaring their love for each other. "It developed quite quickly," recalled a friend. They were Facebook friends and then they met up, and for a while, things were great. Clare felt like she'd met somebody who was putting her on a pedestal and making her feel special, treating her the way any woman would want to be treated. But George Appleton was hiding something sinister. What Clare didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that her new boyfriend had a violent past. He had previously been convicted of harassing and assaulting 2 former partners and had served time in prison. The predator had found his prey. When Claire brought Appleton to meet her father, Michael was immediately suspicious. As an experienced prison officer, he had developed an instinct for trouble. When Appleton turned up at my house, he was somewhat scruffy, balding, unshaved, greasy top, jeans and trainers that had seen better days, Michael recalled. I gave him the look and I thought, well, this is what my daughter's settling for. She certainly started at the bottom of the heap. Michael continued, his voice hardening. I always give somebody the benefit of the doubt, but I never did with Appleton. There was something about the aura of the man, something about the way he looked and the way he acted that made me suspicious straight away. When Michael voiced his concerns, Claire shocked him by announcing she was in love with Appleton and planned to marry him. I was appalled, Michael said. I said to her, you marry him and I'll say it'll put a serious dent in our relationship. I won't be at any wedding. Claire's father was right to be concerned. After several months, cracks began to appear in what Claire had believed was a perfect relationship. She discovered Appleton was seeing other women he'd met online. When she confronted him about his infidelities, Appleton's charming facade crumbled, revealing the violent man beneath. A heated argument erupted, the first of many. Just shut up. You don't say a thing. You don't ever read my phone ever again, you understand? He screamed at her, his face contorted with rage. Claire was terrified. From her home in Salford, she wrote a heartfelt letter begging Appleton to leave her alone. Dear George, there's no easy way to say this, but I don't want to be with you anymore. Too much has happened and I can't ever trust you. No matter what you do, you still scare me and I can't be with somebody I'm frightened of. Don't use this as an excuse to go off the rails. Take care, I mean it, Claire. Appleton's response was immediate and terrifying. You're going to regret that, you bitch. You fucking bitch, you're going to regret that. He began stalking her online, sending vile and frightening messages. He came to her house in Salford, hurling verbal abuse, threatening to damage her property and physically harm her. Open the door. I can see you. Appleton flipped. He couldn't take no for an answer, explained a domestic violence expert familiar with the case. He couldn't accept that Claire was standing up to him. He was the one who called the shots in the relationship. He was the one who had that control, and then all of a sudden Claire bravely stood up to him and told him she doesn't want to be with him anymore. That's where it started to turn violent. The harassment escalated. Appleton punched his fist through Claire's door and made even more threats. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to brand your face. Do you understand? You do not break up with me. Claire reported Appleton's behavior to the Pendleton police station, making them aware of his previous convictions for harassing women. The police took action, installing a fire stopper on her letterbox to prevent petrol being poured through and placing a panic alarm in her bedroom. The next day, Appleton returned, battering on Claire's door for hours. He's been banging on my door all morning, Claire told the emergency dispatcher, her voice trembling. I'm so scared, too frightened to answer. Police arrived and arrested Appleton. A restraining order was put in place, prohibiting him from contacting Claire or even entering her street. With support from the police and the local domestic violence unit, Claire seemed positioned to leave this abusive relationship behind. Her father noticed positive changes. I was delighted that Claire was happy, Michael said. There was no need for me to be concerned. The weight was falling off her. She was giving clothes to the lady next door as she slimmed down and everything was on the up. But in a shocking turn that baffles many who don't understand the psychology of abuse, Claire went back to seeing Appleton. When you actually look at the issue of domestic abuse, it's shocking to see how trapped a victim can feel, explained a domestic violence counselor. It's quite easy for people to point the finger at the victim. For people who don't understand domestic abuse, tragically, a phrase we still hear is, well, why didn't she just leave that abusive relationship? We should be spinning it on its head. We should be asking the question, why don't perpetrators of domestic abuse stop assaulting and being violent toward their partners? Appleton would have used various methods to regain Claire's trust and love, to get back into that relationship and regain control. He may have groomed her to a certain extent, and if he had isolated her from other friends and family, who else could she potentially turn to? Less than a month after their separation, Claire wrote a letter to the police stating that she no longer thought Appleton posed a threat. After much thinking in a calmer state of mind, I was wondering if there might be a way of stopping the charges. This decision would have devastating consequences. Appleton would have been very much playing himself as the victim, noted a psychologist familiar with the case. He would have been saying things like, I've changed, I've done this, I've stopped taking cannabis for you, I can be very different. It's not that she actually believed he could be different, I don't think she did, but I do think she started to feel sorry for him. Following Claire's letter, the court amended Appleton's conditions, allowing him to enter her street to meet friends but still forbidding direct contact with Claire. Despite this ruling, they were secretly seeing each other. 2 weeks later, Claire visited Appleton's flat for what she thought would be an amicable meeting. It turned violent, and the next day, she reported to police that he had attempted to rape her. Appleton, worried about the allegations, called the police himself to inquire if a complaint had been made against him, a manipulative tactic to control the narrative. He's looking for confirmation that she is going against him, that she's not being loyal to him, explained a criminal psychologist. In presenting himself to the police, he's almost saying, "It's her, it's not me. I'm just trying to protect myself." It further illustrates his very controlling behavior. Not only did he seek to control Claire, he attempted to control the police. In the early hours of January 19th, Appleton was arrested but denied the sexual assault charge. Due to insufficient evidence, he was released on bail until April, still legally barred from contacting Claire. Over the next 2 days, Appleton flouted his bail conditions by contacting Claire online through Facebook posts and invites, digital intrusions that might seem minor to others but were terrifying reminders to Claire that he was still watching her. For us, that might be fairly insignificant, but for Claire, it's huge. It's George in her life, in her world, in that world of social media, explained a social media expert. The police considered this a minor breach of the bail conditions, but it's not the severity of the act, it's the fact that he intentionally breached those bail conditions. They don't recognize it's a pattern of behavior. They don't see it as a continuation of the abuse. They just see it as an annoying gesture. It's not an annoying gesture, it's a stalker saying to its victim, "I'm here. You can't get rid of me." And that's exactly how the victim feels. At the end of January, Claire was interviewed by police regarding her sexual assault allegation. She admitted that at the time of the alleged assault, she had been seeing Appleton willingly. This admission seemed to change the police's attitude toward her case. No one put all those pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together to try and understand and appreciate the risk that faced Claire at that particular moment in time, noted a domestic violence advocate. The police are very good at investigating crime, a car theft or a break-in, and there's not much psychology behind a car theft or break-in. So when they go to investigate things like stalking and domestic violence, they kind of discount the psychology behind the abuser and the impact on the victim. With the sexual assault charges dropped, Appleton was allowed to walk free without any restrictions on contacting Claire. On February 2, 2009, this case would reach its tragic and horrifying conclusion. Late that afternoon, Appleton made his way to Claire's house while she was out. He had murder in mind and nothing would stand in his way. Police believe Appleton entered Claire's home using his own key and lay in wait. When Claire arrived home in the late afternoon, Appleton pounced. He rapidly overpowered her and dragged her upstairs, where he raped her. Once he had finished raping Claire, Appleton strangled her to death. Appleton would have wanted Claire to suffer, explained a criminal psychologist. He would have wanted her to know that he was the one with all the power, and this is how he was exerting it, and there's nothing you can do. He would never have wanted it to be quick. But Appleton wasn't finished yet. He then set fire to her body, likely in a clumsy attempt to cover up evidence. "You can't comprehend how evil somebody can be to do that," said a detective who worked on the case. "This isn't just taking somebody's life. It's completely stripping any existence away of Claire." When Claire's family stopped hearing from her after February 2nd, they grew worried and tried calling her. It was completely out of character for Claire not to get in touch. "I said to my son, text Claire. Tell her we haven't heard from her. Ask her if she's okay and to get in touch," Michael recalled. "We got no reply, so I phoned my ex-son-in-law and said, 'Would you do me a favor? We haven't heard from Claire. Will you go past and see if she's all right? And tell her to get her bum in gear and give me a phone.' Little did I know I was sending him into Claire's." As soon as Claire's ex-husband arrived at the house, he saw the back door was unlocked and realized something was wrong. It didn't take long for his worst fears to be confirmed. The police immediately launched a major manhunt for Appleton. After all, Claire had reported him for threats and harassment on numerous occasions. The manhunt for George Appleton was nationwide. It had gone from Salford to across the country. Ports were put on alert. Airports were put on alert. Everyone was on alert for George Appleton, a dangerous individual that shouldn't be approached. As the manhunt got underway, Police realized they had completely underestimated Appleton's capacity for violence. Interviews with his friends revealed that he had told them about the cruel and violent things he wanted to do to Clare. Police also discovered that Clare wasn't the only woman he had targeted on social media sites. The press soon dubbed him the Facebook fugitive. Social media groups formed to help locate him, the very technology he had used to find and stalk Clare now being used to hunt him down. Despite the huge publicity, Appleton managed to evade police for almost a week. I think Appleton, while he was on the run, bit by bit, would have realized that there was a manhunt, that he was wanted, that his attempts to cover things up were just not going to work. He knew that he was probably facing a long time in prison. 6 days after Clare's body was discovered, Appleton was found at a rundown pub in Manchester. He was dead. He had hanged himself. He left no suicide note or message of remorse. As with many psychopathic individuals who are cornered, they take the option of controlling their own destiny, of wresting that last bit of control, explained a forensic psychologist. Committing suicide for someone who's psychopathic isn't really that difficult because they have the same kind of disregard for their own life as they do for others. For Michael, Appleton's suicide was another blow. "I thought you've cheated us." That was a man. It hurt me more than I can describe. It's not just a Father's Day card or a birthday card or Christmas card he's done. He turned one of my family up. After Appleton's death, the full graphic details of his criminal record and violent past toward women were revealed publicly for the first time. Clare's father was shocked and appalled that neither he nor Clare had known the truth about Appleton's violent history until it was too late. Michael was determined never to let anyone else suffer the same fate. "My daughter didn't get the protection that she deserved," he said, his voice firm with resolve. The fact that there were 120 women being killed every year and possibly 5 to 6 men, why in this country at least 1 in 4 women suffer domestic violence of some sort. I didn't want another parent to go through what I went through. Michael worked tirelessly with politicians and police to put a legal framework in place for victims of domestic abuse and their families to find out about their partner's previous convictions. Following a 3-year campaign and a pilot scheme across 4 counties, Clare's Law was launched nationwide. Now with Clare's Law, there is a facility for an individual to make inquiries about the previous history of their partner, explained a police spokesperson. Looking back in Clare's particular case, absolutely Clare would have been empowered to make that application. She could have spoken to a police officer, gone into a police station, and initiated a right to ask. It would have been heard by a decision-making forum, and then, provided certain criteria were met, absolutely Clare could have been given information about Appleton's previous offending history. For Michael, it was a bittersweet victory. "I wouldn't have been in any of this had George Appleton understood. No, I couldn't do anything for Clare. I still can't. They could have called it any bloody law they liked as long as they brought it in. George Appleton was a sadistic predator who used the internet to coerce Clare into an abusive relationship before brutally murdering her. His case highlights the dangers lurking in our increasingly digital world. It's really important because we need to understand what predators like him are doing with social media," noted criminologist Dr. Elizabeth Yardley. "That's the term I would use to describe him. He is a predator. These online dating sites, these apps, they are his hunting ground, and vulnerable women looking for love were his prey. He's using it to identify his victims, but he's also using it later on in the relationship. He's using it to stalk them. He is poking them, saying, 'Look, I'm here. I'm watching you.' So it's a really important tool in his toolbox." Clare's Law represents a crucial milestone in protecting potential victims in the digital age. In the age of the internet, often the relationships that we might strike up with people on dating apps or dating websites are with people we don't know in our social circles, Dr. Yardley explained. They're people that we don't have information about to begin with, so we do need something to enable us to have that knowledge. Importantly, it's not just the person in the relationship who can request disclosure from the police, it's anybody concerned about that relationship, including friends, colleagues, or family members. If you've seen warning signs, you can ask for this information. Michael is immensely proud of the work he did to ensure Clare's Law was passed, but the cost was unbearable. It's gratifying to know that what we did for the last 6 years has brought fruit, but not at the cost of my daughter. No. Whether Clare was in heaven saying, "I'm proud of you," or not, it wasn't worth it. It'll help others, but it certainly didn't help me. His voice breaks as he adds, "I can't get over that. Clare is going to haunt me to the grave. Just so what life is. In our digital world, where connections are made with the click of a button, Claire's story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers that can lurk behind seemingly innocent profiles. The predators of the past have found new hunting grounds online where they can create false personas and gain access to victims with unprecedented ease. Clare's law now offers a crucial layer of protection, allowing individuals to learn about their partner's violent histories before it's too late. But it remains our responsibility to stay vigilant, to recognize the warning signs of abuse, and to remember that the digital world, for all its convenience, can never replace the instincts and caution we must exercise when inviting someone into our lives. Thank you for watching this episode of Silent Crime Witness. If you found this story important, please subscribe to our channel and share this video with someone who might benefit from this warning. Remember, in the world of online relationships, not everything is as it seems. Stay safe.